Hi everyone! Today we are going to draw a cliff with the ocean in the background and a nice lighthouse coming up on our paper. So we're going to draw a nice little beach scene a little bit. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to draw the edge of this rocky outcropping, and we're going to use some angles. So we're going to come out, and I'm using all straight-ish lines. If they're not perfectly straight, that's okay. You can make them go in a little bit. And if you don't feel like you've done enough, the beautiful thing about this is that you can actually add more to it, and it will just look like there are rocks farther behind as well. So you can pull those rocks out even more and it will still look just fine. Okay, because then what we're going to do is we're going to add, just so it looks a little bit more like there's rocks that are closer to us, we're going to add some shapes kind of like that. So now we have this nice texture of rocks. You can add a few extra lines to show, hey, maybe this one comes out like that, and show that there are rocks in front of other rocks. So this is a lot of overlapping, showing things that are in front of others. And I would not go too crazy with it. This is about as much as I should add. I might add a little extra right in here because I don't have very much in there. Now I need to call this done, because if I keep adding it, it's going to turn a little bit, it's going to be too busy, it's going to be too much. The next thing that we're going to add is the outline of our lighthouse. And so we want to make sure that it's more on the flatter part of our cliff, and I'm going to plan that mine is going to be right close to the edge, and I'm going to make a line coming nice and slanted up. Make sure that you leave room, because there's going to be more up here too. And then I'm going to come over a little bit and back down to those rocks. So now it looks like this lighthouse is jutting out above the rocks. Around some of the lighthouses that I have seen, there is this railing so that people can go out. It also might be where that you can walk around where the light is. And then we add a square on top and a roof on top of that. So in the railing, we are going to add some extra lines. And if you want to add the light here, you can. You would add a circle. Some people add a doorway coming up. So that's really going to be up to you. I think that for mine, I am going to add kind of that light, because maybe this is all window. Then you're going to decide on a pattern for your lighthouse. A lot of times they have stripes. They'll be red and white so that they stand out. You could make your stripes going straight across. You could make them curved. That would help it make like your lighthouse is round. You could also do them on a diagonal. Either way is totally fine. And frankly, if you have a different pattern that you want to do, that's absolutely fine, because it's your artwork. Personally, I kind of like how the stripes look on a diagonal, so I'm going to use that. And I'm going to make them fairly thick, because these stripes would be needed to be viewed from a distance. So really thin, they're just going to blur all together. So I think that that looks pretty good so far. The next thing I'm going to add is the ocean off to the side. So all I am going to do is add a barely wiggly line right off to the side. This is all sky. If you want to kind of work on breaking the shape up a little bit, you could add some clouds off in the distance, and I am thinking about doing that. So I'm going to draw a straight line for the bottom of my cloud, and then I'm going to kind of make some bumpy lines, and I can even add bumpy lines in the front. And I can add a couple of those if I want to. The closer to the horizon line, so this would be our horizon line where the sky comes down and meets the water. The closer to the horizon line, the smaller the clouds would be, because it would look like they are getting farther away. So down here, we would draw something nice and big farther away from the horizon line. As it got closer to the horizon line, we would make it look smaller, because that would give the illusion of depth about something being close to us and something being farther away. So maybe I'm just going to add another little cloud back in here. And you'll see that now that looks like it's farther away from us. At this point, I really am ready to start coloring. What I am going to challenge you to do is, this was a fairly simple drawing to do, but what I would like you to do is you're going to work really hard on kind of blending some colors in your coloring. So for example, I'm not going to make these rocks all black or all gray. What I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of color a rock shape, maybe come in here. But I'm also going to be using some other colors as well. I'm going to be adding some brown, maybe even some green. It's possible that there could be some plants growing in here, but I want to see a mixture of colors because it just gives it a really nice texture to have, and it makes it a little bit more interesting compared to if you had colored it all one color. I understand that a lot of it is going to be that dark gray or black, but you can also layer your colors, so you can put colors on top of colors, especially if you are using crayons. As long as you press lightly to medium, not hard, it works a lot better. And so you'll notice that I'm kind of going in closer to add like a shadowy area where those rocks are overlapping and getting close to each other. And then I'm going to use a brown area to make it look lighter. So I'm going to do the black first, and then I'm going to come back in and add some brown in a minute. Alright, now you can see that I've used brown and black, and then here is where I added some brown on top of the black, so it really does help it look nice and dark, but it just adds a little bit of interest to this section of our artwork. The next part that I'm going to work on is our ocean or our sea, and we're going to use multiple colors of blue. If you don't have more than one color of blue at home, that's okay. I'm going to show you a couple of things first. So what I can do is I'm going to color the whole entire thing lightly with just a regular primary blue. Okay, so if I look at the wrapper, it just says blue. And I know it looks really light on my paper, but it's not quite so light. So I am definitely making sure that there's blue on the paper. Once I'm done coloring this, what I can do, so I've colored the whole area a light blue, and I'll lift it up to show you because then you won't get the glare quite so much. So the whole thing is very lightly blue. What else I can do is I'm going to go in and kind of add these textural lines by pressing just a little bit more firmly. And what that is going to do is it's going to give us more of a texture for the waves that might be happening, because the ocean or the sea is not typically super flat. There's typically some waves at the very least. So this is all with the same color of blue, and now you'll see that it starts looking a little bit more textured. If you have other blues, so this is, for example, like a turquoise or a blue-green, I can add that color in as well. So you end up kind of just having all these lines going across, but I don't try to make it look intentionally like there's stripes everywhere, because we know that in real life it's not striped. There's just all these waves adding a texture. So if you look closer, you're going to see that it's not just a light stripe and then a dark stripe and then a light stripe and then a dark stripe. They are kind of blended together so that I'm getting the illusion that there are waves in my ocean. Once I've done these two sections, I am going to move on to my lighthouse. And I am going to use a red, and I'm going to leave part of this white. So I'm going to skip every other. Okay, after I've done those stripes, I am going to grab my black and color the roof. And again here, I might make it a little bit more textured. So I might make some darker lines. And then I might color it in a little bit lighter just to give a little bit of interest in that shape. So even with the same color, you don't necessarily always have the same value. So the value is how light or dark a color is. And we're experimenting with that a little bit in this particular picture. Now the circle that I drew for the light, I am going to color yellow, and I am going to say that in this picture it's probably daytime, because if it was nighttime, most of this would actually appear really dark and really black. We'd be seeing more of the silhouette and less of the actual ocean and the lighthouse and the cliffs. It would potentially be just this big black shape and then a slightly less black background. So we're going to say that this is daytime. If you would like to say that it's more of an evening or a sunset, which is frankly what we're going to do, we're going to use a variety of colors again. So if you do not have different colors, that's okay. Do not panic. What you could do is press firmly at the top of the sky and get lighter and lighter and lighter as you go down to the bottom of the sky. So I'm going to start with a blue-violet, and it's kind of a little bit more on the blue side compared to a regular violet. And I'm not pressing super hard because I'm going to be blending these colors together. It's one of the things that I love about crayons and colored pencils and oil pastels. And we don't always think of this being able to be done with crayons, but you can absolutely blend and layer your colors. So I did a stripe of blue-violet at the very, very top. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be coming down and making it more towards a red, orange, and then maybe a tiny bit of yellow where the sun is setting. Okay, so now I have a regular violet, so it's just a little bit warmer. Has just a touch more red to it, so it looks slightly different than the blue violet. And I am coloring into the blue violet a little bit. I'm not covering the whole section of blue violet, but I am coloring into it because it just helps it make it blend a little bit more and not be as obvious that I'm switching colors. So I don't want it necessarily to look like a rainbow where it's blue, red, green. I want it to blend together really nicely. And I'm gonna pull this down a little bit more. And I'm gonna start thinking of it almost like a half circle shape, but the opposite way. So I want the circle shape to be kind of coming like this. And so I'm gonna start getting my colors to somewhat go in that order as well. And in that kind of general shape. Now right here I colored in right onto that balcony because the balcony is see-through. There's just a railing there. So if you were standing there, you'd be able to drop something through that railing. And hopefully not a phone or you personally. So now you'll see it's getting even lighter. I'm using a red violet now, so it's even closer to red. And again, if you do not have all of these colors, you could absolutely start with blue at the top, then go to purple, then move to red, and just overlap them a bit more. So it's fine if you do not have all of these colors at home. Just do the best that you can. Take a look at what it looks like and see what colors you might want your sky to be. Now I'm adding just a little bit of red. I don't want to add too much red because the side of my lighthouse is red, but I know that I'm going to add some more orange to it. Alright, now it's time for my favorite color, which is orange. I just love how bright and happy it is. So, and I am coloring that orange into the red. Remember, I don't want it to be all of a sudden red and then the red stops and it goes right to orange. The orange is going to be one of our last colors. Our next color is going to be the yellow, but again, we're only going to use a little bit of yellow. Because the yellow would just be where the sun is still picking up over the horizon. So I'm just going to leave a little space for the yellow, knowing that I'm going to be blending that yellow a little bit farther out and into the orange, so that orange will brighten up a little bit as well. Okay, and I want you to notice when I am coloring, it does seem that I am coloring fairly quickly, which I am, but I am also doing a really nice, neat, careful job. So for the sun, which is going to be the very last thing, I am going to draw just a really small partial circle, pressing firmly. And then I'm going to color that in, pressing firmly. We're showing, hey, the sun, that's the actual sun. Then around the sun, I'm going to color yellow, but I'm not pressing quite so hard, so that little section of circle that we made is standing out a bit. Okay, on the bottom of the clouds, I might just make a little bit of yellow, just so it looks like, hey, they're reflecting that sunshine a little bit. And when I am all done, I have a picture that looks somewhat like this, well, exactly like this, honestly. So if I hold it up, you can see it just a little bit better. And you'll notice that little sun shape is right here. There's a tiny bit of yellow reflecting on those clouds. I have some texture to my cliff and in my ocean, and then a nice color blended sky. Okay, I might go in and darken up the stones on my cliff a little bit more. But again, that is just picky little things. You could absolutely take a look at yours and ask yourself, hey, is there anything else that I need to neaten up? Because I want to make sure that this is my absolute very best work. Okay, so I'm darkening that up, and I kind of like how that looks a little bit darker because it just pushes it back a little bit more, so it gives it more depth. And if there's spots that I don't want to be quite so brown, I can mix a little black in and it helps dull them a little bit. So layering colors is a pretty fantastic skill once you know how to do it. And it does get easier because pressing lightly is a challenge for a lot of people. We tend to press hard all the time, and that's not always the best thing for our work. So I like how the brown looks with just a tiny bit of black on top of it. I think it helps it look more like a rock and less like dirt on top of a rock. But so at this point, I think I'm pretty close to calling that finished. Don't forget, I'd love to see your artwork, so send me a picture of it. And I can't wait to see what yours end up looking like. I'm really excited to see how you blend your colors and what colors you choose for your sky and how you deal with creating some texture in your ocean and on your cliff. All right, I hope you enjoyed following along and stay tuned for another video coming soon. Thank you.